Hey everyone, it's PB here. First of all, I hope you guys are doing well. Apologize for the lighting. Fortunately, it's the best place I can sort of do this video. But either way, it's sort of the important thing is getting that sort of message across. So I hope you can get a lot out of this one. So this is the third video in the communication set of videos or playlist or however you want to look at it. And this particular one will be looking at environmental factors. So, like, what type of environment are you in, and how that can affect a person's behavior or communication. So, uh, for starters, have you ever noticed that sometimes in certain environments, sometimes people might change? Like when I say change, is in maybe their behavior or might change, or maybe the way they talk, or something like that. Um, so a very good example is weather. If you look at weather, have you ever felt that have you ever felt in a different mood when the weather is different, or like when I mean, obviously, sometimes when people, rainy days, for example, sometimes people can feel a bit down. Sometimes people, especially if you haven't had rain in quite a while, sometimes it can have the opposite effect. And so that weather in particular can have a very big impact, and that depends a lot on it can depend on the person. It can depend on where on your location. I mean, if you're in a good example, if you're in an area where it doesn't rain a lot and you're going through a fair bit of drought and then it rains, you may be quite happy. But then again, if it rains so much that it floods, then obviously you may not be too happy about that. Um, and so now that's just a bit of a small thing. I mean, even when you get things where you might get a small bit of rain, and or a little storm or something, nothing too big, nothing dramatic as such. Um, that can sometimes affect how a person behaves, or how they talk, or it can change their mood. Um, so that can certainly be a contributing factor to think about. And again, it's not always rain. I mean, it can be any kind of weather. It can be sunny, it can be foggy, it can be cloudy. There could be hurricanes or cyclones, or like obviously natural disasters count in for part of the weather as well. So all these kind of things, anything to do with weather, different environments, like obviously if you're in the city or if you're in the rainforest, all these different kind of things can have an impact. And again, it depends on the person, on top of other contributing factors as well. But in regards to environmental factors, that in particular is something to keep in mind. Um, excuse me. Even crowded places. I know for me, a lot of the time, crowded places don't really bother me too much. Um, they used to, not so much anymore. I'm not entirely sure why. I think probably I got more confidence in myself as as I've, gone through different situations and gotten older and stuff like that. And, my confidence kind of boosted a little bit. So I think that for me, that probably has a contributing factor to that. I do know that for myself, certain, if you get a certain level of crowdness, I guess you would call it, or if you're in a more crowded place than you may be not used to, then that can have an impact. Um, a good example is if you're with somebody who is a bit claustrophobic, or just feels anxious around being in crowds. That's certainly something to keep in mind, because again, if they're like that, they're likely to be distant, not as talkative, they might be a little bit on edge. And so a lot of different behaviors can contribute to feeling, things like that. A lot of stuff like that, as I said, people might feel anxious. So some of that can come into anxiety and depression as well. But I'll be touching a bit on that in some of the later videos. So, but again, yeah, being in crowded places is definitely something to think about and consider, and keep in mind. Um, Now, general uncomfortableness. So sometimes people can just be generally uncomfortable in certain situations. So if you think about things like meeting new people, or being in a place that you're unfamiliar with or you're not used to, or even doing things like a new task that you haven't done before. I mean, again, I would say overall anything new, but that can also depend on the individual as well, because some people enjoy doing new things. Some people thrive on that. I know personally, me, I'm not particularly a person who's fond of change. I mean, I can adapt, but it certainly does take a bit of energy, so to speak, or a bit of a get myself into a bit of a mindset to be able to do that. But you know, um, that's how I deal with it. That's how what I go through, and I've seen similar aspects in a good majority of people, not just by behaviour wise, but just when they've been talking to me, about their own experiences and similar things. Um, and so it's a lot of this kind of thing is definitely you got to consider things like this. Um, and meeting new people. I mean, again, as I said, depends on the individual. Some people love meeting new people. Although I'm a fairly people person, I always do find that slight bit of uncomfortableness, when it comes to meeting new people. But again, that's my personal. That's how I feel. I'm the same with going to a new place, all this kind of stuff. Um, Again, I'm not probably as uncomfortable as I used to be. I used to be very uncomfortable, like very anxious. Um, Not so much anymore. Again, I think that has a lot more to do with my own self-esteem, as well as maybe even confidence as well. But again, everybody is different, and whenever you're talking to someone or, excuse me, communicating with somebody, these are things you really got to keep in mind and be aware of, because how you feel in environment may not be the same as who you're talking to. They may feel very uncomfortable, yet you might be in your element. You might be so comfortable that you could thrive in that. But again, keep in mind that who you're talking to may not be like that at all. That could be completely the opposite. And so environmental factors, weather, crowded places, most of the time, anything new, again, depending on the person, but on average or general term, anything new, most people will usually find that slight bit of uncomfortableness. Um, and yeah, whenever you're communicating with someone, really take note of the environment. And if you see that they might be uncomfortable, think about, okay, maybe, is it the environment that might be having an effect? Um, so, really keep that in mind, because yeah, it is just as important as any other communication uh, type of thing to look into. So yeah. Now yeah, this one was a bit of a short video, so I do hope you got a bit of information out of that and everything. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to hit me up, put a comment in. Have a check out some of my other videos and stuff like that. The next video in this communication thing will be on sociological factors. So people that you're around and how different people being around you can change how a person behaves or how they act and how they talk and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be going into that into the next video. So yeah, so I hope you got a lot out of this, and hope you enjoy the rest of the videos. So yeah, thank you for your support and much love.